Insurance approved workshop to handle them all. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport. Call us on 031 207 2399 and Feel Auto.
الوفاء بشتى الصور أحب الوفي الأمين أمر.
Join me, Faizal MJ Suleman, this and every Saturday on Rise and Shine. Looking forward to gracing the airwaves of Radio Al Ansar from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Rise and Shine.
الوفاء بشتى الصور أحب الوفي.
Audio stream across the world on radioalansar.co.za.
أحب الوفاء بشتى الصور أحب الوفي الأمين الأغر فأهل الوفاء كلون السحاب وحسن الربيع وماء المطر أحب الوفاء بشتى الصور
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم سيدنا محمد وآله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. All praise due to Allah, the Lord, cherisher, nourisher, sustainer and master of the universe, the most gracious, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Ya Allah, it is on you that we worship and is your guidance that we seek. Ya Allah, keep us in the straight path. Ya Allah, show us the choice of blessings. Ya Allah, show us the mercy. Ya Allah, guide us. Greetings, salams, salutations on our beloved Nabi Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's now 13 minutes past 9 on this beautiful Friday evening, the 4th of October 2024, corresponding to the 1st of Rabiul Thani 1446. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Let's Chat on Radio Al Ansar with myself, Faizal MJ Suleman. Yes, indeed, it is the beginning of the weekend, time for us to wind down, time for us to relax in the company of Radio Al Ansar. And on Let's Chat tonight, we are going to be discussing estate planning and the importance of having a Sharia compliant world. Now, as we navigate through life, it's crucial to think about how we can ensure our wishes are honored and our loved ones are protected after we're gone. A Sharia compliant world not only provides clarity and peace of mind, but also aligns with Islamic principles, ensuring that your estate is distributed according to your values and beliefs. Tonight, we're going to explore the importance of proper estate planning, the unique aspects of Sharia compliance, and how you can take the necessary steps to secure your legacy for future generations. This is an interactive program, and I will request that you forward to us any queries you may have, any questions that you may have via WhatsApp on 060 904 1056. That is 060 904 1056. Our special guest in our studio this evening is Brother Muhammed Raees Hussain, who is an admitted attorney with an LLB and an LLM in taxation from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. And with over 10 years of legal expertise, he is currently serving as a legal advisor at the Al Baraka Bank, where he provides strategic guidance on legal matters, focusing on banking and finance. A passionate advocate for legal awareness, Muhammad Raees is dedicated to empowering communities with knowledge of the law, especially in areas that impact our lives, such as Sharia-compliant worlds. His commitment to promoting legal literacy, combined with his extensive experience, makes him a trusted voice in the legal field. Brother Muhammad Raees Hussain, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and Jazakallah khair for joining me on the program this evening.
Wa alaikum salam, Faizal. Jazakallah for having me, and assalamu alaikum to the listeners as well.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure having you on air, Muhammad Raees. And as I said, our topic for discussion is estate planning, Sharia compliant worlds, etc. But let's just start with estate planning. You know, we talk of estate planning, but what is estate planning?
So basically, estate planning is the process whereby you put into effect a plan to manage the distribution of your estate once you pass away. So basically, once you pass away, your debts, your liabilities, your assets, all of those things then need to be distributed in terms of your wishes. So if you have an estate plan in effect, obviously that then speeds up the process, it provides clarity, it provides direction to those putting that plan into effect upon your demise, and obviously that thereby allows for for your estate to be expeditiously wound up.
Mhm. I would have thought that estate planning was more to, to take care of taxation, etc.
So there is a part of estate planning as well. So obviously one aspect of it is implementing a will so that your wishes and in respect of your assets are taken care of. But obviously it also looks into how best to minimize taxation so that your loved ones gain the maximum benefit out of your estate.
Now, having said that, why is it then important to have a will, Maurice?
No, definitely an excellent question, Faizal. So, like I mentioned, one of the key factors of an estate plan is putting together a will, which is a legal document that outlines how your estate, which includes your money, your assets, your property, and all other assets, and how they should actually be distributed upon your death. So, the importance of having a will lies in ensuring that your assets are distributed according to your wishes, which ultimately reduces family disputes and obviously safeguards the financial well-being of your loved ones that are left behind.
Mm-hmm.
So without a will, your estate may be distributed contrary to your wishes. And in South Africa, because it is not a non-Muslim country, obviously then your intestate succession laws would then apply if you fail to implement a will.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that does not align with most Muslim preference. Well, it shouldn't align with the preferences of a Muslim. Additionally to that, it will obviously allows you to appoint a legal guardian if necessary where there are minor children that are involved, and obviously nominating an executive to then manage your estate. So the importance of having a will, we look to the month of September that has just passed, which held National Wills Week. It's held obviously annually, generally in September, and it is a time where attorneys across the country offer free wills and advice to the public, which is ultimately an indication of the emphasis placed on having a will.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you look further, in the case of a Muslim living in a non-Islamic country, it is imperative to have an Islamic will prepared, as this ensures that upon your death, your estate is dealt with in accordance with the Sharia. If we take that one step further and obviously look to the Sunnah and to the teachings of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is reported to have said that it is not permissible for any Muslim who has anything to will that he may pass 2 nights without having his will written and kept with him.
Mm-hmm.
So this alone in itself emphasizes the importance of having a will, especially for a Muslim person living in South Africa.
Absolutely, and I think it's absolutely vital that one has a will as well. We will discuss, the different types of wills, etc. But obviously there are certain legal requirements for it to have a valid will. Now, what are what are the legal requirements for a valid will?
Again, Faisal, an extremely important question, because often what we see at times is that somebody may have written something and they think that it meets the requirements of being a valid will, but if you scrutinize the document further, it ultimately reflects that there's something or the other that's missing, which then invalidates it, and that will is then not enforceable in South Africa. So in South Africa, the requirements for a valid will is regulated and governed in terms of the Wills Act, number 7 of 1953. And some of the key requirements include that the testator, that is the person who makes the will, must be at least 16 years of age.
Okay.
The will has to be in writing.
Mm-hmm.
The will must be signed by the testator as well as 2 competent and in most cases independent witnesses. The witnesses must also sign the will in the presence of the testator. And then the witnesses, it is extremely important that they cannot be beneficiaries. So if they stand to inherit from you, they cannot sign your will as a witness, because that obviously then takes away the benefit that would devolve upon them. And then obviously if the will extends over a page, then all of the pages need to follow the same requirement. It must be signed by the testator as well as the 2 witnesses. And the most important thing is that you should always date your will. The dating of the will is important in that it allows for the most recent will to be identified, because you could have more than one will where you've made changes to it, and then by dating it, it's easily identifiable as the most recent and up-to-date will that you would have.
So it is the last will, the most recently dated will that will be effective. So you
Correct.
can have 10 wills dated over several wills, but the one that's dated most recent is what's going to be effective.
Correct. A common clause that's contained in a will is obviously a revocation clause that basically revokes all previous wills that you had made for yourself. And obviously by dating it, then it obviously provides that indication that it is the last will, and that would then be the effective will for yourself.
Okay. I'm just going to digress a little.
Sure.
You know, we hear the word codicil. What is a codicil? Because some of us understand it to be, I've made a will, I'll make some amendments to my will, I want to add to my will, and doing what's called what's a codicil. If you can just explain to us as compared to making a new will and revoking previous wills.
So basically a codicil is a form of a testamentary writing. So it's akin to your will. Like you mentioned, if you do not wish to replace your will in its entirety, if the basic contents of your will remains the same, but you have some minor changes. For example, in an Islamic will, if you hadn't made a wasiyah in your will and you then wish to do that, then it can be done in terms of a codicil, which is then an extension of your existing will.
Okay. And that's a legal document as well?
Correct. It's legally binding, provided the same rules that you applied to the drafting of your will is applied to the codicil.
Now, is it necessary for the same witnesses that witnessed your original will to witness the codicil as well? Because they may not be available at the time.
Correct. They may not be available. They may also have passed away. So it is not necessary, but preferable if they are still available. Obviously, the same witnesses can witness it, but then it's not a mandatory requirement for the same witnesses to do so.
Okay. And a further question I'll ask you, you spoke of witnesses. Now, what happens? We make a will, we've got it witnessed, and then it's sometimes decades pass before that will needs to be looked at, and the witnesses have now they passed on. And I'm sure at the bank you must be having this problem all the time, not the request all the time from where the master has requested that we want an affidavit from the witnesses to state that if there's any writing on the will that it was done in their presence, etc.
So generally, yeah, they are.
How do we deal with that?
Yeah, correct. So ultimately, like we mentioned a little while ago, it's not necessary that those same witnesses sign the documents, because they may obviously not be available or may have predeceased you as well. So in that respect, and it's also important in that regard to then, ensure that when you are executing your will, it's done in the presence of an attorney. Obviously, if they then can provide that affidavit or letter to the master confirming that the will was then prepared in their presence, and that's one of the things that we currently do at Al Baraka as well. So where there is handwriting on the will, the master obviously calls for confirmation on whose handwriting that was, and obviously then the bank would then issue an affidavit to the effect that it is the handwriting of the testator.
So this affidavit can come from an attorney or the bank, not necessarily from those witnesses, because
Correct.
they may not be around.
Correct, provided they have that first-hand knowledge of
Obviously.
of the events.
Absolutely. Now, in our discussion, we mentioned a Sharia compliant will. Now, what is a Sharia compliant will?
So basically, a Sharia compliant will adheres to the Islamic laws of inheritance, as set out in the Holy Quran. Under Sharia law, a person's estate is distributed to heirs in specific fixed shares, and it is obligatory to obviously follow this formula. A Sharia compliant will allows a Muslim to ensure that their estate is divided according to the Islamic principles. So some key features of a Sharia compliant will include ensuring that debts, funeral expenses, and any religious obligations such as unpaid zakat, unperformed salah, unkept fast, etc., are paid prior to the estate being distributed. Another key feature of an Islamic or Sharia compliant will is that the shares are allocated to mandatory heirs such as your spouses, your parents, as well as children, based on the principles of Islamic inheritance. and lastly, one of the significant differences, or one of the significant differences when compared to a conventional will, is that obviously you are only allowed to bequeath up to a maximum of 1/3 of your estate to non-heirs or to a charitable organization.
Mhm. Now, you spoke of paying of zakat, outstanding, Islamic obligations. All of that must be within the 1/3. I'm asking, or is it?
Yeah.
Within the 1/3.
Within the
So it can't exceed the third.
Correct.
Okay. And what are the consequences of not having a will?
So consequences are significant. Again, if we're looking at it from an Islamic and from the context of a Muslim, these are significant consequences. So if a person dies without a valid will, what happens is that the estate then gets distributed according to the laws of interstate succession. And obviously those laws may not be what you prefer. And again, those laws conflict in all instances with the Islamic laws and of inheritance, and as such can lead to unintended outcomes, such as your assets being distributed un-Islamically and to those that you did not intend for it to be distributed to. No provision being provided for your family members or charitable organizations in terms of your 1/3 wasiyah. Family disputes, that's a very common thing in today's time, especially when it comes to the matter of inheritance. And then obviously, like I mentioned, your assets are distributed in contrary to the Sharia, and it also may cause delays in the administration of your estate, because then it needs to go through the process of now the family members obviously appointing an executor to then take that estate forward. But like I mentioned, the significant consequences to a Muslim who passes away without a Sharia compliant will, then there are both consequences in this lifetime as well as in the hereafter, due to not having fulfilled and discharged your duty of ensuring that your estate is distributed in accordance with the Sharia.
A question that comes through from one of the listeners is that what happens if a person dies without leaving a will? The family now decide that they want to distribute the estate in terms of the Sharia. What happens then? And the entire family is in agreement, let's say. How does one rectify that?
So if the entire family is in agreement, alhamdulillah, that's the first step in obviously rectifying and ensuring that the deceased estate is now distributed in the correct manner. Unfortunately, in terms of the law, you'd still have to follow the interstate succession law in terms of initially undertaking the distribution in terms of those prescribed shares. And once all of the heirs have received their shares in terms of that interstate succession law, it's then upon the heirs to then rectify the position and reallocate the shares in terms of what the Sharia has dictated.
Okay. He's typing again, sorry. Says that I've been advised by the attorney that I can do what is called a redistribution agreement, where the family will agree to redistribute the assets or redistribute the benefits in terms of the Islamic law.
So that may be possible, but we have seen situations where the master does not accept that, obviously because there's no will. What is then dictated is that the interstate succession law distribution must then apply in terms of South African law. But obviously if the master does, for whatever reason, accept the fact that a redistribution is done on the basis of the Islamic distribution percentages, then that can be done. But in most cases, what we've seen and experienced is that the master tends not to accept that, and obviously then requires you to then finalize the estate in terms of South African law and thereafter rectify the position.
So what's important is that the family must accept that we're going to be distributing in terms of Islamic law. Unfortunately, we've got to follow due process, which means we're going to have to comply with the South African law for procedure purposes. But once we receive the inheritance, then we will get the necessary rulings on how to distribute it in terms of Islamic law, and then share the benefits accordingly.
100%, Faizal.
Okay. Now, you use the word executor, and we can nominate an executor. Why is it then important to choose an appropriate executor?
Yeah, so the executor plays I would say, one of the most key roles in administering an estate. So an executor is responsible for administering a deceased person's estate, which includes collecting assets, paying off debts, and distributing ultimately the remaining estate according to the deceased's will. So choosing an appropriate executor is critical because the role requires legal, financial, as well as administrative knowledge. So obviously, if you then choose somebody that doesn't have the necessary knowledge, it's obviously going to be a difficult task for them to obviously then administer that estate as expeditiously as possible. So some of the key considerations for selecting an executor would include choosing somebody that you trust, obviously to act in the best interest of yourself and your family in administering your estate. Somebody that is competent. Obviously, the executor, like I mentioned, should have the necessary skills to obviously undertake the process, because it is indeed a very lengthy process as well as complex. So as another factor to take into account is like with your witnesses, you need to ensure that your executor is available. Is there a guarantee that when you do pass away, your executor is still there to then administer your estate? And then obviously it would need to be a neutral party, such as a professional, especially in instances where there are disputes between the family. So obviously that neutral party can obviously play a mediator role and obviously come to a conclusion that then suits and suits all parties.
Mhm. We're going to visit the marketplace. We'll take a short ad break. We'll continue after this, inshallah.
Simplex Radio. Visit our showroom for the full range of car audio. Our TV department carries top brands with quality LED panels, full HD to Ultra HD, and now the experience of Super Ultra HD. Visit our theater rooms and transform your home with brands like Onkyo, Integra, Denon, Boston Acoustics, Yamaha, and more for quality audio visual experience. Now available, full range of home appliances. A one-stop shopping experience. Call 031 306 4029 or Kenilworth Park, 202 Brickfield Road, Overport. Simplex Radio, the name you can trust. This dua for marriage and family is brought to you by Continental Butcher Baker Delhi. Quality, freshness, and value. Our promise to you since 1992.
ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين وجعلنا للمتقين إماما.
If you're looking for a delicious selection of freshly made baked goods, decadent deli treats, and succulent meats, there's no need to chop around anymore. Continental Butcher Baker Deli offers an award-winning service, presenting exceptional quality at competitive prices. Superb choice-grade lamb, beef, and chicken, mouth-watering homemade processed meats and gourmet marinades, and scrumptious baked goodies. Quality, freshness, and a money-back guarantee. Continental Butcher Baker Deli in Argyle Road. Visit continentaldeli.co.za.
Call 031 208 0951.
Iqra Wafham. Read and understand the Holy Quran. Your program giving you the most powerful manual for life. It's the message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the Last Testament. The ayahs are recited, translated, and explained for us to understand by various learned scholars of Islam. Comes to you every Sunday at 8 p.m. and Fridays at 10:30 p.m. Iqra Wafham. Read and understand.
Plan your dream holiday with this specialist, World of Travel, as we pride ourselves in offering you the best in Hajj and Umrah. We also offer travel packages to the Middle East, Far East, and many more exotic destinations. Call our professional travel consultants now on 031 20 8877 or view our website www.worldoftravel.co.za. Visit us at 44 Crescent Street as memorable journeys begin with World of Travel by Irshad Malik.
Feel good food all day, every day. The Al Ansar Deli, here to tantalize your taste buds. Visit our sit-in deli and try our daily specials at 207 West Road, Overport. Open weekdays 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Saturdays 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Closed on Sundays and public holidays. Call 031 208 1601. Al Ansar Delhi, feel good food.
There's nothing quite like the taste of a traditional family meal, and at the heart of every great dish is a key ingredient that brings it all together. That ingredient is Sunfoil pure sunflower cooking oil, made from only the finest sunflower seeds. It's a perfect way to enhance the taste of your family's favorite foods. Sunfoil cooking oil is more than just oil. It's the key to bring your family together over a delicious meal and making every bite taste better. Remember, the key ingredient to a great family meal is sunfoil. Tradition just tastes better.
Have you heard? Have you heard?
Heard what?
The latest. Join me, Kelly Ramazani, for a brand new exciting show every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. for the ultimate guide to navigating the world of careers. We talk about side hustles, unpack careers that are in demand, careers that do not need a degree, job searching, career advancement, personal development, and so much more. Tune in every Saturday, 9 to 10 a.m. to unlock the path of your dream job.
Radio Al Ansar, Durban, 90.4 FM, Peter Maritzburg, 105.6 FM.
You're listening to Let's Chat on Radio Ansar with myself, Faizal and Suleman. We are discussing estate planning and the importance of having a Sharia compliant will. And our guest in the studio this evening is Muhammed Raees Hussain, an admitted attorney. And of course, he's with the Al Baraka Bank, and he's a legal advisor at the bank where he provides strategic guidance on legal matters, focusing on banking and finance. Mohammed Raees, just prior to the ad break, I did ask why is it important to choose an appropriate executor, and you explained us the importance of same. Now, what are some of the practical considerations which a person must take into account when making a will and preparing for death?
So, Faisal, when preparing a will and planning for death, some of the practical considerations which one should consider include obviously updating your will if required, considering the estate taxes and obviously making provision for same, making notes and recommendations on funeral arrangements if obviously there's preferences in that regard. And one of the most important things is obviously ensuring that if there are minor children that you have, obviously, then ensuring that your will sufficiently covers an appointment of a guardian to obviously take care of those kids for whatever reason, in the event that you are the last surviving between your spouse and yourself. So obviously that provides clarity in that regard, especially if there is an inclination or the possibility of there being conflict when it comes to the children and who takes care of them at the end of the day. And obviously, in terms of your digital assets, obviously include instructions for managing such assets, which would then include your social media accounts, online banking, as well as digital files or documents that you may have in the cloud. And then obviously, in respect of your debts and liabilities, provide clarity on how these should be settled. And obviously, it's important to, like we mentioned at the outset, obviously that is one of the things that needs to be paid before the distribution of your estate. So make that clear to your heirs as well. And then obviously another important consideration is making provisions for your spouse. Because like I mentioned earlier, the estate administration process is a lengthy process. And obviously you should then ensure that sufficient funds and cash is left for your spouse and loved ones to cover their expenses, because obviously once you pass away, your accounts are then frozen, correct, and will no longer be accessible to them. So especially if they didn't have funds in their accounts, or if they did not have active accounts, then it's important to obviously make such provisions for them. And another important thing, and I think everyone should actually implement this, is obviously preparing what is called a life file. Basically, it is a file that you should then keep all of your important documents in. Keep copies of all of those documents so it's easily accessible if something were to happen to you. And then obviously as well, with those documents, keep information of all of your assets and your liabilities, which then makes the job of the executor a little easy when it comes to obviously compiling that list and trying to source those assets and obviously and ultimately distributing them. So definitely planning for death is a very sensitive but as important and essential process that obviously ensures that your wishes are respected and your loved ones are cared for.
Now, I'm thankful to the Association of Muslim Accountants and Lawyers for having, requested you to join me on the program this evening, and of course for having made the necessary provisions. Who is Amal? Talk to us about Amal.
Yes, so definitely. Amal, like you mentioned, the Association of Muslim Accountants and Lawyers. So it is an organization that's based in South Africa, and it was founded in 1984 with the aim of empowering Muslim professionals in the fields of accounting and law. The organization has a rich history of providing a platform for Muslims, but not only Muslim professionals, so all professionals in the field of accounting as well as law. And obviously the platform is to collaborate, network, share knowledge, as well as engage in community service, which is a key factor and obviously something that Amal holds at heart. So recently Amal celebrated its 40th anniversary at a gala dinner held in Durban on the 13th of September, which was a significant milestone in the organization's history. So again, like I mentioned, Amal is an association of Muslim accountants and lawyers. Membership is open to all professionals, not just Muslims, and its annual membership fee is only 300 Rand. So, you're getting great value for money with that membership fee. You're obviously exposing yourself as well as your career to great minds within the fields of accounting as well as lawyers. And then again, membership to Amal places you amongst some great and influential people in the fields, and obviously provides various opportunities for yourself and your career as well.
There's a question that's come from a listener. It says that a man said verbally, without any witnesses and not written in his will, he told his daughter that upon his death, she must give a property to one of his grandsons. After his passing away, the daughter did that and gave it to the grandson. Is this legally valid and Sharia compliant? And the listener says, I'm aware that there's no mufti in the studio. What's your thoughts on that?
No, correct. Again, something like that, again, should ultimately be, discussed with, and if there are any conflicts that's prevalent in that situation, then, the best advice I could give is obviously to sit down with the alim who would have the first-hand knowledge of how that estate should be distributed in terms of the Islamic law. But again, if it wasn't a written thing, again, it's difficult to have enforced. So again, if it was not a written will, again, I'm not too sure how they enforce the transfer of that property ultimately.
And that's the thought was going through my mind as well. It was going through my mind because obviously if there was no will, it would have been done in terms of intestate law of succession. Correct. And then they would have had to get the consent of the other beneficiaries to transfer, because the grandson in all probabilities would not even have been a beneficiary in terms of his estate. But I think, brother, that's in a sentence this question. This is a question for an alim or a mufti. Now, after this interview, I will be playing a pre-recording of an interview with Mufti Imran Wada on a very similar topic, but unfortunately not in the studio, so I don't think he can even deal with that question of yours. Now, we were discussing Amal, and I recall that I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago at our very hall here, Amal had a workshop, a legal workshop, and amongst that was, it was wills week, so they were doing wills, etc. Now, how can Amal assist with wills?
So obviously, as mentioned, Amal consists of qualified professionals who are able and willing as well to assist you in preparing for the inevitability of death, not only by guiding you through the process, but also assisting you in preparing and executing your last will and testament, which would then ultimately lead to an equitable distribution of your estate upon your demise.
Now, if I want to get any further information about Amal or get in touch with a lawyer or an accountant from Amal if required, how do I do that?
So to get in touch with Amal, you can contact them at their help desk on 031 207 3381, or you may email them at info@amal.co.za. Alternatively, you could check out their website, which is amal.co.za. Alternatively, follow them on their various social media channels, and obviously you can reach out to them in that way.
Brother Muhammad Raees Hussain, I want to thank you for joining me in the studio this evening. Jazakallah khair, and thank you for having me the time and discuss this important topic with us. I'm sure you have a message for our listeners before you bid us farewell.
Jazakallah Faizal once again for having me in studio and allowing me the opportunity to come through and discuss this extremely important aspect of Muslim lives, which I hold really close to my heart. And obviously, a simple message, putting a will together and executing a valid will in South Africa is simple. Within South African law, we've been given the freedom to execute a Sharia compliant will. So let's not waste that opportunity. Let's put it together. We're just coming out of Wills Week. So, I'm sure there's attorneys out there that are still willing to assist you if you aren't able to put the will together yourself. And let's get it in place. And obviously that is not only for the betterment of yourself in this dunya and the akhirah, but obviously it then provides direction for your loved ones and ultimately takes care of their needs as well.
Jazakallah khair for that, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
We spoke to Muhammad Raees Hussain, an admitted attorney who works with the Al Baraka Bank as a legal advisor and who provides strategic guidance on legal matters focusing on banking and finance. And he spoke to us about importance of having a Sharia compliant will. Monday, thank you for engineering and for the logistics. Well appreciated. And thank you to Amal and to Hajj Dakota for having put this show together. After this, we're going to be playing a pre-recording of an interview I had with Mufti Imran Vauda, and this was on the topic of wills as well. So after the break, we listen to this interview, and for myself, Faizal and Suleman, for the time being, it's Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وفوق الروابي وعند القمر ويا من تحب غياب الوفاء رأيتك
Radio Al-Ansar, Durban 90.4 FM, Peter Maritzburg 105.6 FM.
Greetings, salam, salutations on our beloved Nabi Muhammad Rasulullah.